Hello, everyone. And again, we have a guest speaker, Mr. Chip Helm from Cook Medical. For those of you in my sales strategy class, you must have seen Chip, where he talked a lot about how his current business to government is shaping up at Cook Medical. But right now, Chip is going to put on a different hat. He's going to talk a lot more about how is technology helping him or giving him headaches as he navigates the daily world of sales. So Chip, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to our students.
No problem. Enjoy it.
Uh, Chip, so one of the things, you work for Cook Medical, which is a global medical device organization, and you've been in the organization for 30 plus years. Tell me about how technology has evolved uh, in the last 30 years, and how has Chip embraced these different technologies in his day-to-day tasks?
And that's a broad question. First of all, as I teach an old dog, new tricks. Yeah, I mean, you have to evolve with technology from 30 something years ago. I mean, I'll give you some examples. In the old days, you're in a hospital setting and you're on a payphone. You're going from a payphone to a cell phone. So that's technology. You're going from a large cell phone that was this big to a tiny cell phone that we use today. One thing that hasn't changed in 35 years plus is face-to-face meetings. Yeah, that's the thing about this old school of technology. It's still the best. Whenever you can, it's still best to have a face-to-face meeting. So let's speed up time up to COVID and the technologies we had today in social media. Be careful about social media. I mean, it's a great platform, in a lot of ways, but I think people are overusing it. I think sometimes people, we've fired people because of what they've said in social media and what they've done on social media. And sometimes we don't hire people because we see things on social media. So I think that's some of the things that, can social media be a great platform? Yes, but it needs to be in the right setting and for the right reasons. And so, you got the social platform issues, and that's Twitter and Instagram and all this stuff that you can promote stuff that's great. And now the biggest thing since sliced bread is Zoom or WebExes. And that's at least, okay, so if you can't be face-to-face, like right now, we're face-to-face, right? But it's not exactly the same, right? I mean, you can't see someone that up close and personal. Eyes, really see their eyes. I want to see how their reaction is. It's very much more difficult on a Zoom thing. I think what you have to do, though, to kind of bring it back around is just adapt to the evolution of the technology. But here's the biggest take home. If you're good at what you were doing before and the networking skills and the way you're building relationships and the way that you were, make a phone call and, do you have phone skills? I don't know, but it's very important now, or text messaging or emails. You're still doing it the same way. You just have to adapt it through the different medias now. I don't feel like I've changed anything. All I've done was taken my skills and adapted it to Zoom. You can see right now, as an example, I'm using my hands. You can hear my voice. I still have different tones in my voice. My passion doesn't change. My excitement doesn't change. How I want to address you doesn't change. So I just, with Zoom as an example, I just prepare, and prepare more. You've got to know exactly before you come on what questions to ask. You keep things succinct and to the point. You can't just go on and on and on and on and on and on. You got to get a really kind of a timetable. So there are little nuances that you've got to adhere to when you use some of these new technologies.
No, so that's actually, it's interesting. You talk about the fact that there's phones and there's pay phones, there's big cell phones, and with the smartphones and stuff like that. And of course, there's social media that came on much later on as well, right? But one of the things that we talk about in this class is how has technology, let's say, for example, using social media. But I'm not only talking about the right use of social media. I'm not talking about posting your personal thoughts on sensitive issues, not knowing exactly what your customers' preferences are and stuff like that. I'm talking about doing it the right way. So I'm hearing more and more, especially even in the medical device space, where one of the things that the students need to understand is that whatever you say is, you're in such a regulated market that you should be very, very careful about what you say, even if it's about your product, right? Let's say you're not talking about any kind of commenting about what's happening in the world out there, but you're talking only about your products and how it can help the customer. But you are in a heavily, heavily regulated market there. But even in those kind of regulated markets, I'm seeing more and more med tech or medical tech reps out there using social media because they're being asked not to visit customers. So it's not that they don't want to, that they're using social media to create content and stuff like that. So that's one way of trying to make sure that they don't get forgotten by their prospects and by their customers. So tell me a little bit more about, is that important? Or if I have to do that, what should I be doing on social media to make sure that I'm seen as a thought leader?
Well, first of all, you're correct. We are more regulated today than we were 15, 20 years ago. We have more people sitting in compliance, Cook Medical today than we ever had. Everything is routed and rerouted and rerouted and watched and looked at for content to make sure that it's not off-label use or off-label comments. Off-label is a big word in our industry, that physicians can use things off-label, but we can't market things off-label. Yes, the marketing content, what we show, so it's so regulated, what we put into a marketing information sheet. So I guess what I would say is that's not how to use Twitter. That's not how you want to use Facebook. That's not how you want to use LinkedIn. What I meant is that unless you've cleared it by your company to put on a marketing sheet or some advertisement of something, it better not be one word out of place. There better not be anything wrong at all. So my point is, I don't think most companies use social media that way. They may use social media just to stay in front of the customer, just to provide articles or provide factual information. Maybe a price come out, just factual stuff, that things that aren't confidential, aren't secret, aren't whatever, just that you could read right off the website, or you could read right off of something. So something like that to stay at. I don't know so much if it's, Cook has gone from not using social media to where they've used it more than I've ever seen it, to meetings that are coming up. They're doing a lot of video conferences with doctors. They're now highlighting new product development when a new product comes out, that kind of thing. Do I really know how successful that is? Do we know how it equates to dollars and cents? I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I mean, indeed. The fact is, indeed. So I'm also talking to other companies, especially in the medical.
You probably have to do it, though. You probably still have to do it just to stay in the game.
That's the whole point, right?
That's all. I'm not sure how successful it is. Now, really what's more important, what I believe is more important, is your use of your phone skills now. Your use of your Zoom skills. And are you really good at Zoom? And are you really good at text messages? And you're going to say, what am I talking about? You're really good at emails. And what I mean is, do you understand how to write them? Be creative in your emails and your text messages. Do you understand when you got someone on the phone for about less than a minute, what to say, how to get them invigorated in something, how to get them excited in 30 seconds to talk to you again? I can't say enough. That's what I'm trying to say, that's to me is a skill set and then phone skills. Oh my God. I mean, do you know how to talk to someone, and your voice setting and your preparation and the types of questions you ask? And, so that's what people should feel good out of COVID. If they have worked on those skills, oh my God, you add that to your toolbox as you get back out in front of people. That to me is the critical component.
Indeed. Now, if you think about this, right? So, for example, let's not talk about where you're operating in the B2G space, business to government, right? But in your previous job, not job in the same company, but in your previous challenge that you were looking at, What was your market share approximately for Cook
Well,
Medical?
it doesn't matter if it's government. I wrap everything together. I just have expertise on the government side,
Okay.
as a commercial side. So it's not what I'm saying, talking about. I'm not specializing in it and saying, hey, this is for the government side, not for commercial. Everything I'm saying, I will do it across the
Oh,
industry.
no, I'm not talking about that. No, Chip. The reason why I'm saying that is
So that's one thing. But gosh, I just lost my little bit of my train of thought. But you asked about
your market share. The reason why I'm
yeah,
asking
market share. I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you, Cook, over 35 plus years that I've been with the company, we're more of a niche company because we're in like numerous fields.
Yeah.
So we have numerous competitors. We're in numerous fields. We're probably numerous competitors. So I would say we average anywhere from 5% to maybe 25%.
Absolutely right.
Ever be in a market where, Cook is 80%. That's electronics of the world, the Boston Scientifics of the world, because their size and their nature.
Yeah.
But yes, we're probably, 10% here, 5% here, 3% here, 12% here, 15% over here. And so you pull it all together, we're admirable. We're a formidable opponent. But yeah, so we,
The reason why I'm asking that question is that because there is a part, because if you're at 80%, you cannot necessarily do a lot of business development, right? Because your market is more or less saturated. More than that, your customers are not necessarily going to give you business because they say that's putting too many eggs with the same supplier, right? So what I'm asking is that in your job, not in the B2G space, but in other space, was there hunting involved in terms of trying to bring in new doctors in or new hospitals into the fold of Cook Medical? Did you do any hunting in your previous job? That is your
every day, every hour, every second.
Indeed.
You're always trying to bring on a new customer. You're always trying to engage and a new relationship. You're always trying to hunt for the next best thing. You have hunters, you have gatherers, you have you have salespeople that are good at hunting. You have salespeople though that are good at hunting and not relationship building, just hunting, just finding the next person who will buy something. I believe that the best salespeople are not just hunters; they actually hunt and then they build a relationship and then they end up selling and building that relationship and working with that person 5 years from today. So it's a constant evolution of battling, of adapting and growing and bringing in new customers. That's not even something we don't think about. That's just something that's part of the everyday job.
Indeed.
Every day, your DNA. I mean, that's one thing of my enjoyment the last 35 years plus is I'm probably talking to someone new every day or every other day. So it's not just a customer that, but you got to remember something. It goes back to the old Chipism, from my books. When I tell you something I want, it's behavior change, but it's like this. I mean, everyone should treat, no matter what business to business you're in, or business to government, or business to commercial. I don't care what you do. You treat every customer the same. And it doesn't matter if they buy $1,000, $1, or $1 million from you. And if you look at it that way, you're always navigating, always building relationships, always building new customers. And then the second part of that Chipism is that, they don't have to figure us out. We have to figure them out. And that's the key about this whole cycle of people and selling and businesses is that, again, we've got to figure out the customer. They don't have to figure us out. And so it just goes back to the same again, in that when you said that about do you hunt, that's just part of what I do. Part of any good salesperson, anybody really good in what they do is always hunting. You never stop. Never stop hunting for new people, new engagements, new business every day.
So Chip, if I were to ask you from 30 years ago to how you hunt now, how does technology fit in? Do you do research about your customers on LinkedIn? Do you actually start even emailing? So for example, one of the things that one of the other medical device companies that we were talking to was talking about how marketing is increasingly more involved in prepping your customers or prospects so that you don't have to do the real estate. You still have to go meet them, you still have to go convince them and everything else, but marketing is playing much more of an important role in prepping. So in the class, they talk about things like inbound marketing messaging that goes out. So my question is that how has even prospecting changed for you? Oh, this because
Oh my God.
yeah,
Years ago, I can Google now.
yeah,
I can get on the internet and find out a lot about people. I can call more people to find out about other people. It's a lot different today with the technology. You can communicate with through LinkedIn. It's funny about LinkedIn. You know, you look at it as a professional site, but I'm in the medical pharma world, right? And I would say that probably 25% of my LinkedIn followers, who are they? Physicians. When I see the chief of surgery somewhere, we connect. When I see physicians that I know, we connect. I use LinkedIn to connect with a lot of my customers. So, and not so much Twitter and so somewhat Facebook if they become friends, but LinkedIn is a really primary source for me. And I've actually reached out and had discussions via LinkedIn. I've actually set up meetings through LinkedIn. But I think what it does is it just the Googles, the internet, you can access people more than you ever have. You can find little tidbits about them. You can find where they went to school. You can find what their specialty is. I have a method to it. Here's how I look at it. If I can get your email address, or if I can get your cell phone number, I'm going to win because I know how to write emails and I know how to reach out to you. So sometimes, and when I go into an area, I do all that research on the customers that I want to talk to. Before I get there, I know who they are, I know what they do, I know what they eat, whatever it takes. You have to do a lot of preparation. And the same thing is that also what you do is you learn how to also prepare for those meetings more. An example that a Zoom meeting, if I have a Zoom meeting with a physician, and I can tell you one thing, Zoom meetings are different than face-to-face meetings. And here's what I mean. Not so much the fact that you're not face-to-face. Zoom meetings don't last very long.
Yeah.
We'll stay on it for 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, and you better get to the point. Whereas if I was face-to-face with Dr. So-and-so, I may be able to have a discussion. We talk about something else, and I may be in his office for 45 minutes. Yeah. I had a conversation with a chief of surgery, 2 days ago for an hour and a half. But I can guarantee if we were on Zoom, it would have been about 15 minutes. Yeah. You better know what you're going to say in 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. You know the questions. You better know exactly what you want to get accomplished. So putting together an agenda, putting together the methods, the modes of what you want to get accomplished is so much more critical on a Zoom call than it ever has been. Same way on a phone call. And the same way on emails. Emails are interesting because you really want to do emails with kindness. And I will go at least 4 emails before I stop trying to reach somebody. But it's all how you reply to that email. I go from the sent button. If I send something to you, I reply to the sent message. I don't write a new email again. I write it in reference to the email below that I'd sent you, but you do it in kindness. You do it in a way that it's not badgering someone. It's like, hey, just checking back with you, just saying, hey, would you have a few minutes? I'm going to be there. And, so I think that kind of technology is even more critical today with COVID that I never thought that an email would be that important, or even a text message, or even a phone call. But it's very, very much part of your tool bag today.
No, I want to take a step because this is when you're actually having a conversation or whatever we move forward, right? Now, let's say, for example, Cook Medical is coming up with a new solution or a new innovation, right? And there's only so many hours in a day that Chip or his team can actually go talk to customers and build. So essentially, what role does marketing play in creating awareness and creating leads. So for example, this innovation is so new that a doctor that you've never worked with, now you have the opportunity to reach out, but you don't have the time to do that. So tell me a little bit more about how technology is being used by your marketing team to bring in possible leads rather than hand it over to you.
Well, I mean, you've heard of the word in service.
Yeah. No, what's
What that means?
No.
That means that somebody goes into a hospital and does an in service on a product. You get face to face,
Okay.
show and tell, and you show them how to use it, right? So
Yeah.
that's called an in service. Well, now what's happened? The in service is now on video, now on Zoom. So what I'm saying is I can get on, and they have marketing has put together presentations.
Wow.
See, in service presentations to where you walk through a physician, comes on, and you can walk through a show and tell right on a Zoom call because they put together all the slides, all the hands-on, all the information necessary to actually go through the same thing, and you can't be in person. So while that's happening, all your presentations about how you would speak in person now been developed into presentations.
Fantastic.
Have a conversation about a new product. Now I can get on Zoom and boom, I can pull up this presentation and walk them through in 5 minutes. Boom, 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 boom. And he can see it, I can see it, and we can talk about it. So it's really everything now in marketing has changed so that people can put it on their iPads. They can put it on their things. So that's the biggest technology change that's happened through COVID. And what's happened now post-COVID or in the middle of post-COVID, that now they can still use it remotely.
I also do it face to face.
If you can't get face to face, we're doing it all the time now. We're actually doing sales calls, quote unquote, on Zoom.
Yeah.
So not just meeting the doctor. How are you? Hey, just want to check in with you. How you doing? I haven't met you the first time. You can actually do a sales call now, our sales presentation, our sales in service, our sales update right on. And we're doing a lot of using technology to bring physicians on to help us present our technology, meaning through papers they wrote. They've written paper, they got data, they've done a study. So now they come on now through technology and we present it to the world that way. And we invite other physicians and we invite them through LinkedIn and through Facebook and through phone calls and through face-to-face conversation, whatever it takes to invite them to come on to these, presentations.
For the students,
so that's happening all the time now.
For the students, essentially what Chip said when he said he can actually, marketing puts together a slide deck on Zoom that they can reach. That's what is sales enablement, the term that we use in class is sales enablement. When Chip was talking about how you can actually have other doctors talk about their cases and then that becomes a webinar, then essentially what happens is that marketing and sales identify certain key doctors and they would call them key opinion leaders. So they would get them to talk and then they invite all the contacts that might be interested in not hearing Cook, but another doctor talk about it. And then that generates leads because there are people who are registering for it can then be passed on to the sales rep who can then go back and then have the Zoom presentation afterwards. So in the class, we talked about it as inbound marketing. Or if there's a presentation where a key opinion leader has presented something, you record it, and then Chip can then email it as a link to one of his existing customers. And that becomes outbound lead generation, where it's not where a physician opts in, it's where you send that pre-record message. And that's essentially in this class what we talk about in terms of inbound marketing, even though the term is inbound marketing, is lead generation. And then you have outbound is what, yeah.
Well, and also now you're seeing virtual meetings.
Yes.
Going to a medical meeting in person, they're having virtual meetings where you'll log on and you'll listen to presentations virtually. You can chat virtually. You can actually help support because they'll actually have exhibit booths virtual.
Nice.
Where the products can be there virtually. I can see them.
Yeah.
They're laid out on a table, let's say, or they're talked about, or they're images. So a physician could be sitting at home or in his office, going to a virtual meeting and can see what technology you've developed and also can listen to lectures and also be presenters if they're asked to present too. So that's what's going on right now in our world, virtual meetings.
Absolutely, that's great.
Virtual, they're getting companies to support financially because we're able to virtually show them the newest and greatest
Indeed.
widget that we've just brought out, and we have time to talk about it or have information around it. So that's what's happening also.
Indeed. And tell us a little bit more. One, I just want to last couple of things as well, Chip, is tell us a little bit more about your training program. I know that in the past, when times were good, you would go for face-to-face training programs, right? Now, tell me what's happening in the world of training. Is it gone?
Oh my God, we have a site now.
Yeah.
We have actually a training site, so we're required. I'll get an email.
Yeah.
I'll get emails. The training's up. You have till this date. You go on this site we have now, and you look at videos, or you have to look at information and then take a test. So that's happening all the time now. Again, I think it was going that way. It just got speeded up or sped up by COVID. So all this training now is done. All companies, we have a training site, and everything's put up on that training site. You have deadlines, you have tests to take. And believe me, everyone's held accountable.
Yeah.
Late, I would get my boss would call me and say, when are you going to get your training done? I mean, it could be Excel training too. It could be Excel training. It could be out training. It could be, it doesn't matter. It could be product training. So it's heavily being done. Same way training's going on now, probably once a week on webinars that we're given different divisions, and I'll take it another step. Sales meetings. I was out of town, but our sales meetings are all virtual, and they'll spend 3 or 4 days. Seriously, you sit on a webinar and you'll take breaks, but they have lectures and product updates, and they basically have a virtual sales meeting now.
Hey,
all that's going on too, but there's no question that training has stepped it up, because here's what's happened. They've gone back to the training teams and said, okay, they're at home. They're not face to face. They got time on their hands. You better put together content that allows them to get on and can be smart enough that they can navigate, they can learn something. So learning, education has never been at the highest level it is right now. That's kind of a unique statement. We didn't have this much training pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And if we did, we try to have it in person, which is once a year, maybe twice a year, because of cost and money and getting everybody together. Well, now that you are remote, training's at its highest level, its highest ability, because you have probably more time to access it, more time to digest it, more time to understand it, more time to review it again and again, and it stays up there.
Yeah.
It doesn't go away. So I'd have to say that shame on you, shame on me if we don't learn or don't get it, because we probably have never had this much educational training in my whole career.
And for the students in the class, you have no idea how vital this is. So what Chip talked about here, from all the things that we've discussed in class so far, he talked about how to use webinars to attract customers. He talked about how you can record those webinars and then use it so that Chip can email it to his, not customers, prospects, his contacts and everything else. And he can use that on LinkedIn. He can use it with his email. Then, of course, I'm sure that then he talked about the content that is created to run these presentations once you have the customers in. So that's part of sales enablement. Then training is also part of sales enablement. You just had the exam on it. So essentially helping my sales organization be more effective is what the training is about. I'm sure that Chip talked about Excel training. I'm sure there also had trainings about how to write emails. Not that everybody needs it, but I'm sure they have information about how to send messaging, how to do that. Chip also talked about the fact that they are tested on it, because essentially the idea is that, did you follow the training program? And then when he said that his boss once in a while checks up on him, or when Chip used to check up on his team, said, did you guys follow up the training? That's part of coaching. The idea being that if you do those trainings, you're going to be successful in the job. So all the kind of things that we've talked about in class so far, and you just heard how a medical device company is actually doing it. So Chip, again, on top of this, essentially, Chip is an expert on personal branding as well. So I will put together two of his. I'll give information about two of his books that Chip has worked on, and I would strongly suggest that you connect with Chip. I'll also give you his LinkedIn email address. No, sorry, email address, LinkedIn address, so that you connect with Chip. And he has some pretty interesting Chipisms in how you build relationships and how you build a personal brand. And Chip, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to our students. And again, you have no idea how much you are actually helping them realize that how technology is, and technology is here to stay, but it still means that you need to have good practices. You need to make sure that the basics of sales still remain the same. You have to be nice to people. You have to build connections. You treat others the way you want to be treated. And I think those are the kind of things that I've taken away from your books. And hopefully the students will also
Well,
take that away as well.
I think I'll end it this way, that everything you said is correct. Technology has never been higher. The advancement of technology, the ability to use the technology to be more efficient and effective with social media, Zooms, you name it, it's there. It's all good and well. But I look at it this way. I look at it that during the last year, I've been able to strengthen my skill sets, strengthen my Zoom skill sets, my phone skill sets, my email and tech skill sets, and my creativity of how to get to people that you can't get face to face. That's creativity at its highest. When you figure out ways how to still get to someone when you can't go see them in person. So I think what happens when you come out of this COVID, as we move forward and move past, and it'll never be the same, but basically you can say to yourself, it should be better now. You should be
Yes,
better
you're
than
right.
you've ever been. You didn't lose the face-to-face skills. You better dust them off and get your butts ready to go back out there, because that's not going to still change. You still need to get out there when you can.
Yeah.
But now you have such stronger skill sets. So when you are working remotely or you can't get out there, you really are going to be a lot more effective than we ever. Pre-COVID, I didn't know these skill sets that well. Remote, as I'll call them now, it's a new Chipism. I didn't know these remote skill sets. I didn't need to use those remote skill sets as much because I was face to face. Now you have a broader tool bag, and you should be a lot more effective working and engaging people than you've ever been moving forward. I think it's an additional. There's no fear. There's no distraction. I look at it as, man, I've learned more in the last year than maybe I've learned in the last 5 to 10 years.
And I think that's the attitude that all salespeople need to take. They should look at this as well.
Oh,
you know what?
yeah.
You need to actually look at this as an opportunity for you to improve your skill sets. And as Chip correctly pointed out, when it's just a matter of time before things go back to normal. You should be flexible depending upon what your customer is comfortable with. And that's what it is. If the customer is okay with you visiting them face to face, if you can, that's the best possible way still. But if the customer is not in a position, or you have to be in a situation where you cannot be everywhere all the time, then how can I use this to still be effective in my job? And that's essentially what it is.
Yes, that's the whole thing about this remote skill learning. Whatever. It's not scary. It's actually exciting.
Yeah.
To have this and to learn how to use it to your advantage and leverage it when you need to use it. Now I feel like I can do both. I can be at home and I can be successful. I can be in front of the customer. I can be successful. I've got all the pieces to the puzzle now. Maybe I didn't realize I didn't have all the pieces to the puzzle.
Yeah.
Now I do. And so it actually it's fun. It's exciting. It's a great challenge. It shouldn't be like, oh shit, what do I do with a 7-year-old here? It's learning how to do both and juggle. So when you do get back, I don't know if it'll ever get back to normal, but let's put it this way, you still go back to where you spend 60% of the time in front of a customer. Maybe it was 85. Now it's 60. Maybe it's, maybe I'll never be back to 80 again. But now you have some other skills that you've learned that can add in and close that gap
Indeed.
of working with people.
So thank you so much for your time, Chip. And again, as we progress along, I hope that the students connect with you and can also learn a lot from you when they connect with you as well. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.